Amen.
All right. Get hyped, everybody. Here we
Hey,
go.
woman.
All right. Hello and welcome back to Late to the Party. Tonight we are reviewing the 1972 Russian film Solaris, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. Based on the 1961 book of the same name, this sci-fi epic begins with our protagonist, Chris Kelvin, at his family home on Earth. He is sent on a mission to the space station orbiting the planet of Solaris. A skeleton crew of scientists have been reporting a bunch of nonsensical messages, and the government needs Chris to assess the situation. Shortly after arriving on the station, it becomes super apparent that the planet is bringing memories of the cosmonauts to life. The film has a super long runtime, explores a whole bunch of different themes, and hopefully we can piece it all together and kind of come away with a better understanding, because it's an extremely critically acclaimed movie and perhaps one of the most important science fiction films of all time. I'm your host, Jason. I'm joined by the Scots, Josh and Liz, Nate the Great, beaming in from the Collection Connection headquarters, and I got my two cavemen with me, Isaac and Jose. I'm super interested to hear what everyone has to say, so let's just get right into it. What does everybody think the main message of this movie is?
Who do you want to go first?
Let's start with the cavemen. Isaac, Jose, we'll go Nate, and then we'll bring it around, Josh, and we'll end with Liz.
All right. Main message. I don't know. Maybe if I had to take a swing at it, I'd miss. Man, I haven't really given too much thought as to what the main message is, just because I feel like there's a bunch of messages coming together. But I think, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I want to say it's like we can't escape ourselves. We are who we are, based on our memories and our we are who we are based on our memories. And I think that's one small piece of it.
Nice.
Oh man, the main message of this movie is listen to what people who've experienced things said is going on and just go with it, while you have to go search more and send others to be damned for going and not. Like, all those people, how many people died before that guy finally went over there? Like, too many people died. And it's like, why does our government or anybody like always want to put more people at risk when they've been told don't go back there, like project? I don't know. That's the message I take.
Man, you got the government message from it. I was being more
super
trying to be more romantic on it, but like, you're who you are, baby. Your memories make you.
Yeah, man. Wants to control everything.
Man, see what I mean? Though it's hard. It's hard to like pinpoint a single message. I think there's a lot going on, and that's what I loved about it. That there was so many things that I was like, wow. Makes me want to go back and watch it again, to be honest.
Oh, definitely. Every scene kind of brought a different idea to the table. Nate, I don't know how you feel about this movie. I was getting some texts that seemed like maybe the message wasn't received.
No, I do you guys remember what I was saying when I was watching it? It was kind of like well, to me, the message was about our relationships with other people as humans, and his relationship with Hottie, for instance, it was that wasn't really her. I mean, she was dead, so that was a facsimile of who she was to him. So just based upon that, it might look the same and have a lot of the same features, but a lot of who she is isn't who he knew her for. So just by that, it's missing a big sense of herself. And then it makes you really think about the people that we surround ourselves with, friends and family. Like they're only to us who we perceive they are. You know, you don't see what's going on behind the curtains. You don't know what's making the clock tick. The only input you get from them is what they give you. So it's a very introspective thing. But you know, it was hard for me to drag that out of the movie because I wasn't sure about what I was getting into in the first place. I'm like, oh, it's an outer space movie, and then they take that 20-minute car ride, and it's just there's no dialogue, and they're just driving in a car for like 20, like wow, over the river and through the woods, like. So I was like, I got through all the way. My first watch, I got all the way to space, and then I was like, I don't know what I read. I don't know what they were talking about. I don't know what's going on. Now he's going to the spaceship. Like I missed 40 minutes of something. So I had to go back and watch that. I had to read up on it, go back and watch what the movie's about by reviews, and then go back and watch that again just to be like, oh, I guess that's what it is. I know the way you are on these movies, Lego. So I was like, you know what? I have to get out my easel and my beret and my little pointy stick for my cigarette to watch this movie. And, you know, I did that and I got where you're going with these things. But to me, I needed a lot of help, a lot of reading, and I was still bored off my ass.
Nice. Fair enough. Fair enough. Scott, you got a message for us?
You want me to go or you go?
You go first.
I took it as what is life? What constitutes life? What's the meaning of life? It's a typical science fiction trope in a lot of movies, especially in the 60s and 70s. This, aside from the long RT cuts and stuff like that, that's what constitutes life.
Nice.
I think it's pretty close to that. I can't help but think of this movie in the context in which it was made, 1972, the Soviet Union. This film really came across to me as Russian existential angst. You have this, communist dictatorial empire that's, aggressively atheist. And so you have the people, the citizens living in there who are pondering their place in the world. They're pondering their existence. Why am I here? What am I doing? And there's no answers except for, what has to be serving the state. And so this movie is, like Liz is saying, science fiction is a way to explore themes kind of in an indirect sort of way. And I think a lot of this movie had to do with exploring, what is the meaning and purpose and morality of life. And it's a way to do that inside this really cold, oppressive, atheistic society that the author and the director live in.
Nice. Well, that pretty much sums up what my next question was going to be, was there anything explicitly Russian about this movie? And I think the setting and the tone overall really was what was Russian about it. What does this movie have to say about memories? Let's go back through Liz, Josh, Nate, and then we'll end with the caveman.
Well, I mean, obviously all these constructs, extra people that were on this station were based off of memories or interpretations of an alien species trying to look into a human brain and trying to make it real. And it's funny because one of the scientists said, well, at least you had something solid in your head. It's your wife. Some of us had some weird little things going on. Because I mean, he made it sound like some of the things that they came up with were figments of imagination, or just weird shit that they thought up, and it just happened to appear, and you're like, who are these people, or what is this, and where did this come from? And it's an alien trying to interpret what they don't understand. So yeah, like it's kind of interesting that they used memories as a way to communicate, I guess,
Nice.
with us,
So,
and try to connect with us. You know, in Close Encounters, they used math and music, and you know, E.T., they just have like a straight up alien. In this one, it's an alien trying to interpret human emotions, which they don't understand it, to communicate with us. And that was kind of interesting how they did that. Yeah, and that guy, Chris, got lucky that what was on his mind right before he left was his wife. Otherwise, he'd have problems.
Yeah, so this goes back again to the whole point of meaning, is that as a Christian, I see the world as a place that God has designed to operate in a certain way. And part of the way that God has designed the world is based on memory. We do certain things, we participate in certain holidays, we engage in certain activities, not just as something to do communally, but also as a piece of memory. Memory helps us to know who we are and what our place is in the world. And even when you try to divorce that kind of concept from God, as in a Soviet atheistic system, you can't escape the way that the world has been made. And so the movie is communicating that part of the way that the characters come to know who they are, or even how the alien mind that's on Solaris comes to know who these people are, or the guest constructs that it makes, is through memory, through past events, scenes that they can remember, and it brings all of that stuff. It's what brings the guests to life, and I just think that's how the Soviets are trying to come to terms with seeing purpose in their existence, while simultaneously denying the one who gave them that purpose in the first place.
Right on. Well, maybe we can shift a little bit for this one. Nate, do you think that Harry is less real than the humans on the station?
I don't think so. I think she's as real as, or maybe more real than, because she is herself, but she's also trying to, it's like a puzzle. She's trying to exist as a puzzle with missing pieces, because all there is to her is the parts that that Kevin knows. So, and there's a lot more to us than what other people perceive. So I think that the intelligence was trying to fill in the gaps through learned interactions that they were having together, and just experience was trying to fill in the gaps in that sense. And coming to grips with having emotion as well. I mean, she would have those bursts of joy, and then sadness, and it was interesting, her journey through the movie.
Absolutely. I was never quite sure because I found myself really thinking like, yes, like, oh, she's more human than human, sort of, in a way, and is she the mirror of these guys, or is she just some sort of desire or fantasy manifest? So I'm still kind of undecided. Maybe
I think Solaris is a planet working like an id machine, and it's turning your innermost dark suppressed thoughts back on you to try to understand you. So it's like a weird, not exactly, but do you remember the episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where the aliens spoke in metaphor, where they didn't just speak with words, and they were talking? It was called Shaka When the Walls Fell. Super interesting, but it made me think about that when I watched this. And if you haven't seen it, Lego, if you don't watch it, if you ever go back and look at an episode of Next Generation, Shaka When the Walls Fell.
It's really good.
Yeah, the creatures only spoke with metaphor. So they were speaking, the words they spoke were English, but they were all like metaphor. So if you were to be using the word like embarrassment, you wouldn't say, "Hey, I was embarrassed." You would say, "In third grade when I pissed myself in front of the class." That was an example of a time you were embarrassed. So I don't know, long ways around it.
That's super interesting. I love the next gen, so I'll definitely have to cue that one up. Leading up to that scene where Harry and Chris were floating around, and she, it almost seemed like that was kind of like an ascent to personhood, or at least maybe enlightenment of some sort. We're kind of like scrolling across this painted village, and it's got nature elements, and it's very snowy. I thought that was a really interesting juxtaposition, considering how throughout the whole movie, probably an hour up to this point, it was lots of very real nature. But then when we saw her enlightenment, it was a reproduction of nature. What do you guys think about her being a metaphor for maybe art or film itself, and maybe not so much a mirror of consciousness? Let's hear from the cavemen. You guys have been quiet for a while.
Well, if you want to look at it from a film point of view, I guess you could say we're the audience. She's representative of the audience, especially because, like when we go into a movie, especially, for the first time, we have no idea who these characters are. Just like these men that are on the ship, she has no idea who they are. She has some memory of who she was before, but she comes in, she meets these people, and then just seeing what is presented to you, you learn who the characters are. And then with that painting, is like you said, Lego, it's not the real thing. Movies aren't the real thing. This is just somebody's interpretation of something that they said. So in this case, Solaris is an interpretation of Mr. The whole crew that worked with Mr. Tarkovsky. This is what we think a science fiction is, and we're presenting it to you, just like whoever the artist is that drew that painted that said, this is my interpretation of a winter day in my town. This is how I'm presenting it to you. So I feel like if you wanted to look at it like that, she represents the audience and getting to learn, who this world is with, just a tiny glimpse of who she is from from her own past.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to chew on that one a little bit. Nice. All right. Isaac, the government, they're having that fierce debate. What's happening there? Is humanity just searching for a mirror of itself, or do they need to just F off and forget space and stop trying to expand and conquer the cosmos, or just push their border? What's going on? What's happening with that debate?
That debate literally is just saying that guy in the beginning, I forgot his name, that he's gone crazy and he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just was stir crazy, and he doesn't have the answer. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna find out what's going on up there, even if we gotta let a bunch of other people die. Like we want, like you said, conquer all the way over to space. And I think just recently they said in our government that they're gonna take space, and it's coming, man. This movie was ahead of its time.
Definitely.
Can I just say I'm really happy you brought up the whole wanting to conquer the cosmos thing, because that's honestly, I think, my favorite scene in this whole movie. It's that little when they're in the library, and he's discussed, and doctors, who is it? The one that goes on to say, logic, no, and he says something along the lines of, man, man doesn't really want to try and conquer the cosmos. All man wants to do is really just bring Earth to it. We don't need the cosmos. Man needs man. Like that whole line. I can't, I wanted to try and memorize it, but I couldn't. But I remember first hearing, I said, oh, dang, that's true. And it's kind of touching what Isaac just said, that we're already thinking about going into space with this Space Force, but what are we doing? Like, what's the plan once we get there? Is it just to plant like they did on the moon, plant an American flag and say America, as opposed to, why did we come here? Why did we come to the moon? What are we trying to learn? And how can this knowledge be brought back and either better us or, add to who we are? It just felt like, they always call it the space race. And yeah.
Right. The race to what? I hear you. Movie, so many different filmmakers have cited it as one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. Did you guys feel any influences while you were watching it? Did it bring up any memories of old movies you'd watched or themes?
I thought I was watching Interstellar all over again. Christopher Nolan's Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. That it mirrored it so well, and I could see this is a big influence.
Definitely. I saw that too. I also felt Moon was heavily influenced by it. It seemed like very much like that kind of bottled space station, very emotional, very like what is a human sort of thing.
2001. Any point of 2001 where nothing was happening? It reminds me of this movie for sure. Where they just sit in an empty room where it's like, okay, what's the point? All right, I got it. He's in an empty room. Like I can see the influence there.
Nice.
One of my thoughts when I was watching it, because now that we've been doing these late to the party episodes for some time, I can't help when we're watching these movies to think through like the different points that Nate laid out as I'm watching. And this movie predates a lot of the sci-fi that I think all of us have grown to love and experience over time. The one thing that I kind of was regretting is that movies like 2001 and Star Trek: The Motion Picture didn't take hints on scenes that went on for too damn long. This movie had a lot of time where you just got to stare at like the seaweed flowing in the water and the psychedelic motions of the surface of the planet Solaris, and the car ride. I mean, my God, it just kept going and going and going, and it just reminded me of the scene in Star Trek: The Motion Picture when they encounter the cloud and they're flying through that thing, and it like never ends. I got up during that movie and went to the bathroom and came back and it was still going. I was like, oh my God, it's never gonna be over. Anyway, so my thought is that if this movie was as important a sci-fi piece for people afterward, how come so many movies didn't take the hot tip and not repeat that mistake?
It's because artists are just copying each other and they want to do the same thing their favorite guy did.
That doesn't bode well for George Clooney.
Well, I mean, this movie is I mean, the question. Wait, what was the question again? Like influence and stuff.
What influences can we see?
Well, it's got all the science fiction. Generally, the science fiction. You've got the stuff happening in space. That's a sci-fi trope, right there. You have the political nature, which is what science fiction usually has. It's sci-fi, especially in writing, is always masked a political agenda one way or the other, or either mocking or helping the progression of this utopian society. But you've got the politics that are involved. It's also a classic science fiction trope. And you have the where is my place in the universe, which is also something that sci-fi does all the time too. And what makes us human? How come what makes us human? Why are we better than the alien in Mars? Why are we better than this place, these aliens in other places and stuff like that? That's also where, and it goes back to where's our place in the universe. Right. We all, we're very self-centric, in our general day-to-day thinking about where we are in the universe, but science fiction writers are always looking towards, looking outward and seeing, what are we really the center of the universe, or is it something else out there? I mean, most of science fiction writers also are not Christian. They're atheistic in nature and in their philosophy and beliefs, and so of course they think that there's something else out there besides us, but that has a lot to do with what's going on here. It hits on on the classic science fiction tropes that you see in a lot of science fiction writing and movies. I mean, modern science fiction nowadays, it's just put it in outer space and it's sci-fi. Put an alien in it and it's sci-fi. You know what I mean? This has more to do with the intellectual sci-fi, especially since it was based off of a novel, so it transfers over into what classic, I guess it's considered classic science fiction, but what science fiction initially was to begin with, and what a lot of these writers try to do. They put fantastical stories behind it so it wasn't believable, yet they're talking about real and believable subjects, whether it be politics or our place in the universe and things like that.
Right on. Well, I am not sure that I have any better understanding of this movie now, but get into the buckets. Let's go with the cavemen, and then we'll go Nate the Great, and Josh and Liz will end it out for us. I think this is a 10 out of 10 movie. I liked the car ride. It's shocking, I know. I felt like it was a good time to kind of like ride along with him, meditate about what had happened so far in the movie. And it also made me like just really kind of check myself and like say like, hey, where's my mind going right now? What's unconsciously bubbling up? What kind of memories is my mind producing? And then that leads us directly into the scene where the ocean starts producing memories, physically manifesting. And I thought that was really interesting. What memories would have shown up if the planet had scooped them out of my head right then? So this movie gave me a lot to think about. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 7. 7 buckets for all the inspiration that it created. It was, like I said in the beginning before we shot, like I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. If you'd cut out a few of the scenes down, it'd be even more enjoyable. But it had a really good, like, a lot to think and a lot to take in, and those shots, those artsy shots, I could see why so many people are like, this is like a masterpiece. And like Josh was saying, how so many other movies had those long drags. It's like, I want to copy what my favorite movie was back in 72, and it's 7 buckets.
I can definitely see the influence that it had on cinema. And I appreciate it. I respect it. It made me think of a lot, mainly about trauma, because that seems to be what it's on those guys' mind. I don't know. But at the same time, I can't really, see it being referenced. I can't see it for the pop culture, historical thing that it is, the film that it is. So I'll score a 8 out of 10.
Wow. I put on a different hat. I looked at this like I was a student, and watching this movie was an assignment. And knowing more what Lego's looking for, I think I think that I would probably get like I'm hoping for a B+ for a grade as far as my astuteness in observing this. But was I entertained? fuck no. Like, I was so not entertained. I felt so punished again watching this movie. So, I mean, like, I was like, when I was watching that car ride, that 20-minute car ride, I was like, dude, this car ride is like one of the shorter episodes of The Mandalorian. Like, and I get a whole like a whole plot from the rooter to the tutor. And it was rough, man. I'm 2 buckets. 2 buckets.
Fair.
I liked this movie a lot, actually. But I'm a big sci-fi movie kind of person. So I think the story was solid. The acting was solid. Yeah, there was the slow parts of the car ride and the ocean constantly, and it could be narrowed down. It's enough that I actually want to see the remake of it. Normally I'm like a one in, like, I don't want to see the remakes of things because usually the remakes it's not as good. But I think that if the story is kept the same and it's solid and it has, for what I understand, good actors in it, if they, stay true to the story, I think and they just condense it down a little bit, not to make it so artsy. I know that the director at the time was tired of the West's version of science fiction, which was all about technology and all about the monsters and all about all of that at the time. And he wanted to make this a little bit more classy, I guess is the best, more artistic, more filled with more emotion than what you would normally see in science fiction. Most science fiction, coming out from our side of the pond was a lot more of the technological and look what we can do with special effects and things like that. And there wasn't any of that kind of stuff here until the very, very end when they panned. That's really the only real special effects that they had to do for it. Having said all that, sorry, a little long-winded. I give it a 7 out of 10, and I'll definitely want to go back and like I said, rewatch the remake for it to see how that turns out.
Awesome. Same.
I before I get into the buckets, I just wanted to make one comment on a piece of the film. They're talking about these guest constructs that are being manufactured by the planet Solaris, and they make the comment that Hari is, that Chris is lucky that he has Hari, that he has something that's so pleasant as his construct. And we only get glimpses of what the guest constructs are for the others. And it makes you wonder what in the hell the planet was drawing out of their minds. The one guy, we only get the glimpse of like the ear of something like laying down in his room. And the other guy has the midget in the hospital gown. And you're like, what in the hell is going on? And then the rest of the movie is really pleasant because Hari is actually a joy to be around. It's kind of odd. Anyway, all that to say, buckets wise, I think the directing could have been stepped up a little bit in certain areas. I think it wasn't always a joy to watch. There was definitely parts of the film where I could feel my inner Nate coming out. I think that the special effects were probably good for their time, but in some places were still a little rough. I think the acting was great. I think the story was great. And on that basis, I think I would probably give it a 7 out of 10 buckets.
Nice. Pretty respectable scores all around. I'm glad we all got to talk about this. I saw it come up and it just seemed like something we'd all like to get into. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the hat over to Isaac, and hopefully you got a good list for us.
Thank you. So we've got either the 80s or classic filmmakers.
I'm all about the 80s.
Wonder Woman lately. I'm going to go with classic filmmakers.
No way, baby. Love the 80s fashion, love the 80s hair, love the 80s music. I'm all in on the 80s, baby.
I'll go classic filmmakers.
I think I'm gonna ride that 80s train. I'm trying to reflect on whether or not there's any really awful films in the 80s. And I think that there's more good than bad in the 80s film wise. So I'm hoping that'll have us dodge a bullet instead of the crap that Isaac gave us last time.
Oh. Wow. Hit her much?
Oh man.
And
Just
once
to,
again, the tiebreaker goes to Lego.
Yeah.
Always does.
I'm just gonna stick a stick in them bicycle tires there, Josh, and we're going classic. Sorry, buddy.
So, do you guys want to go to space in 2001, A Space Odyssey from Stanley Kubrick?
Oh no. No, please God.
Didn't we just watch that?
I was gonna say, back to back. All right.
Oh my God.
Do you want to watch a George Lucas film, THX 138?
I've never
That's
seen
1138.
Damn it. Or do you want to go down Ridley Scott's lane and watch Alien?
Alien.
Alien. Yeah.
That's hard not to say Alien.
Alien. You better say Alien if you
I
want to
did.
sleep in the bed tonight. I'm playing the wife card on
I
this
gotta
one.
go with 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I love that movie, but it's a long one. It's a long one. I'm glad we're doing Alien. All right. Woohoo!
There you have
Join
it.
us next week. We will be reviewing Alien. I'm stoked for that. It's going to be another great sci-fi week. We love sci-fi. Until then, I am Jason.
I'm Isaac.
I'm Jose.
Liz.
And Josh.
And I'm going to bed.
All right, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.